Welcome to One Brothas Mind, and I am KD Smooth. Today we will question and challenge popular information and views from a B1 perspective, while we expose the real facts you need. We do this to strengthen your logical, critical, and discerning thinking skills. Because in today's world, hard choices are mandatory and they come with consequences. So you need all the information. And at One Brothas Mind, we do this from a B1 Yeshua the Christ followers perspective. Now, if you're not ready, you better get ready with KD Smooth at One Brothas Mind. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It's KD Smooth coming back at you with a new report. I pray you all are doing well. Shalom, family. In today's report, we're going to actually have our second installment in our new series here at One Brothas Mind on systematic white supremacy. And we are exposing and highlighting examples of systematic white supremacy here at One Brothas Mind, especially for those who don't fully understand what that is, and try to use and deflect what systematic white supremacy is, and avoid the whole conversation. Many people do that, but we're going to expose some examples of that in our series here. And in today's report, we are going to cover, let's see here. We are going to cover this issue: water racism. Pardon me for the technical difficulties. Water racism and environmental terrorism. Systematic white supremacy, number 2. So just before we get started, family, please remember to smash the likes, share this video on all your social media with all your people, and be sure to be subscribed to One Brothas Mind, where we try to bring you the information and facts you need. Okay, in this report, I got a short clip I want to share with you guys. This clip is going to be coming from the TYT network. They did a pretty good breakdown on this water infrastructure report out of the Wall Street Journal. I'm going to attempt to post a link to that or their source in the description of this video at the end. So feel free to source that information. But we're going to go to a clip of their breakdown, and then I'm going to chime in during the clip, as well as we're going to cover some more information at the end of the clip. Okay? So, again, systematic white supremacy number 2. Here at One Brothas Mind, water racism. Yeah, it's a thing. It's really environmental terrorism. Okay? All right, here we go, family. We're going to dig in here really quickly. Now, before we start our clip, on your screen, this is a report, like I said, I believe it came out of the Wall Street Journal, about water earmarks. So briefly and really quickly, basically what happens pretty much every year or every couple of years, whatever, the government or the president will announce, okay, we are setting aside this many billions of dollars to help repair and restore our water infrastructure in the United States. Okay? These are projects. This is money for projects to fix water issues in various states, to remove lead piping, you name it. It's the money to make our water infrastructure better and safer throughout the country. Okay? And when the government or president announces this large amount of money in the billions, many people celebrate the president. Yay, we need this. Now wait, hold up. Because the trickeration doesn't kick in until after the amount of money has been announced and made available. Then the racism and the white supremacy kicks in. And the government and president full well knows this is what's about to happen. And because this happens every year to most of the budgets of various types that the government announces. Okay? But this is just one example in regards to water infrastructure in the United States. Okay? On your screen, the chart in the gray, the amounts in the gray bars are the amounts that the government or president said we are going to earmark this amount to help restore or secure our water infrastructure in the United States. Great amounts of money. Okay, that should get a lot of work done. And each year, as you see there, it's set up to get a lot of projects done. But then you have the green, the earmarks, the green amounts that are like Pac-Man chomped away at the total amounts each year that were available. And the green amounts are pet projects and earmarks from various different state representative and congressional representatives, basically for their pet projects. Their funding that various different politicians said, well, since we got all this amount of money available, I need X many millions of dollars for my state for this project here or this project over here. And another one goes, well, wait a minute, I need some money for this project over here in my state. And there's a whole gang of them in line going, me too, And by the time the politicians get done stealing funding, if you will, out of the overall budget for the water infrastructure, far less money for water infrastructure projects, remains to actually get some of those projects done or improvements done. Are you following me? Okay. Now, you say, well, what happens to the money that the politicians get for their pet projects? Well, glad you asked. Briefly, that money goes to their pet projects. And I'm going to let Anna here on TYT break that down for you, and then I'll come in and chime in here or there, because she does a really good job on this particular report. I'm not a overall huge fan of TYT, but some of their reports and some of their personalities from time to time do a very good job on this. So we're going to go to this report. So again, Anna's going to break down in more detail and give you various examples from different states of how they lost or a certain amount of money they were set up to receive. The politicians got involved and they got far less money, rendering them only able to do far less projects. And she's going to get into why. So here we go. Let's get into this clip at this point. Here we go.
The states. So let's get to some specific states and what the impact is. So in Illinois, for example, earmarks last year shortchanged the state $14.7 million in federal aid to improve clean water systems. Illinois has some of the greatest water needs in the country, including the second most lead pipes in the United States, a recent federal analysis shows. And over the past 2 fiscal years, another state, Pennsylvania, received about $36 million less than it would have received if lawmakers had not allowed earmarks. For Indiana, the cut totaled roughly $45 million. In Texas, the reduction exceeds $65 million. And congressional earmarks also took away critical water money from, Puerto Rico, which tends to get screwed over quite a bit by the system of government we have here, the way things work in the federal government. And this happened as Puerto Rico was still working on rebuilding after the devastation of Hurricane Fiona in 2022. Let's give you some details on that. Over the past 2 fiscal years, Puerto Rico received roughly $26.6 million less than it would have without the earmarks, and that's according to the Council of Infrastructure Financing Authorities and the data that they shared with the Washington Post. But look, the problem is exacerbated further. It is made worse by the fact that congressional earmarks really do appear to benefit wealthy communities over needier ones. In states such as Maryland, Massachusetts, and Virginia, fewer than 20% of congressional water earmarks in the 2023 fiscal year went to communities that are considered disadvantaged. Members of Congress decided where to send those dollars, not state officials who might have.
That's very important. Members of Congress decided where those funds would be spent in those states, not state officials. Okay? So again, they're redirecting these funds to their pet projects, most often in actual wealthy communities, not the communities that are in dire need, or let's say a lot of the so-called black communities. Okay? So, yeah, let's continue.
Who might have directed them to areas in greater need. So I want to back up for a second and address one other problem that I see here. After the Biden administration succeeded in passing legislation that funds infrastructure projects, he made clear that the earmarks need to be allocated to needier, disadvantaged communities. But the problem is the states all define disadvantaged communities in different ways. And there really wasn't an enforcement mechanism to ensure that that money, that those resources were getting to the parts of the country they were meant for. So,
systematic white supremacy. There's no mechanism to ensure the money gets where it's needed the most, but there is a mechanism, systematic white supremacy, to ensure the money continues to get to the congressional representatives' pet projects. Do you see that? That's systematic white supremacy baked in the cake. That's why you have certain areas in your city, in your state, that seem to always be kept very nice and developed. The roads are always paved perfectly, and it's like they're getting repaved every couple of years. Just great areas. And then you have other communities and areas in your same city or state, especially in a lot of the so-called black communities. You have those areas, the streets don't get paved, the chuck holes don't get filled properly for decades. Do you see that? Systematic white supremacy baked in the cake. Okay? So let's continue I'm going to let her keep going here. Here we go.
So it's one thing to just declare that you want the money to go in a certain direction. It's something entirely different to include enforcement mechanisms to ensure that that is taking place. Because look, fact of the matter is, members of Congress are going to want to fight for their pet projects and dip into those funds as much as possible for a whole host of reasons. It might help them with re-election. It might assist their corporate donors in a project that they really want. And at the heart of this issue is the problem we're facing in this country with, again, crumbling infrastructure as it pertains to water. The fact that we have multiple parts of the country dealing with lead in their water is insane. And to see that this money is being redirected toward pet projects for federal members of Congress is also incredibly insane to me.
Okay. Again, this is a clear example of systematic white supremacy that has not only happened, but been happening. This is the way the system works and has been working for centuries. You ask yourself, how did the water in Flint situation get to where it was and get so bad? How did the lead pipes in Illinois get so bad and not have been replaced already in a whole bunch of other cities and areas, especially predominantly black, so-called black communities? This is how. Okay? Now, don't miss this part, family. The congressional or congressmen and women dipping into this money for their pet projects, let's say that part was made illegal. Just magically, bling, it was made illegal, right? And the money went to the state representatives. Guess what's going to happen? The state representatives are going to do basically the exact same thing. They're going to direct those funds where they want them to go in regards to their pet projects, as opposed to the most needed or needy areas in that city or state. Do you see? Do you see that? So in this case, the systematic white supremacy is multi-layered. It's multi-layered. Even if you stop the congressmen from dipping and snatching these monies that's supposed to be helping and rebuild the infrastructure, you're still going to have the state officials doing the exact same thing. And you're going to still get pretty much the exact same results. Right now, you can go out in your city, drive from one side of town to the other, whichever way you want to go, and you're going to go from a really nice area, if you live in a really nice area that's receiving these pet projects funding, and if you drive through other, to the other side of the city, you very well going to go through some of these poor communities, some of these predominantly black communities, and it's going to be a night and day difference. You're going to be like, oh, wow. Now, here's the thing. I want to leave this particular note at this point. Here's where many of our white brothers and sisters, y'all. Yeah, I said it, and I'm going to say it. Here's where y'all get it wrong. I've argued with white brothers and sisters for decades about this issue. When y'all drive through predominantly black neighborhoods or poor neighborhoods, y'all first mindset is to say, oh, look at this area. It's horrible over here. It's torn down. It's run down. It's this, that, and the third. And y'all, in your mind, y'all say, well, the people over here just don't care about their community. These people are tearing their own neighborhood and community up. It's the residents' fault. That's a cap. For my white brothers and sisters, that's a lie. Straight from the pit of hell. Straight from Satan's mouth. And this report is explaining this to you. The predominantly black communities, so-called black communities and poor neighborhoods, the funding that's supposed to be being invested in those communities to revitalize, in this example, the water infrastructure, is being taken from them by the elected officials. Systematic white supremacy. So the water infrastructure in these poor communities or so-called black communities remains subpar, remains crumbling, because they don't get the funding to actually do the improvements. In this example, it's water infrastructure. Try bridges and roadways. Try whatever infrastructure you want to identify. It all works this exact same way. The government sets up a big chunk of money to so-called fix it. The congressmen and the state officials come right behind, and they all dip in, dip, gimme, like little Pac-Mans, and they take the money and specifically target it at only certain areas, or can we say predominantly white areas or suburban areas. And there's always some sort of road project or infrastructure project or something going on in those communities. And those communities look great, look all new and clean. But then when you drive through the predominantly black communities or the poor communities, they just are ran down. This is how it's been happening from the beginning. This is it. I've argued with many of my white brothers, and I've tried to explain this to them. And because it's so convoluted and it's so much information, they go, oh, no, that can't be true. That can't be true. This is literally the facts you need. All right. So let's continue. All right. Here we go. The last part of this clip, and then we'll move forward.
Now, just a few more details on this. An unpublished federal study aimed to explore whether earmarks had aligned with an executive order that Biden signed in 2021 that aims to deliver 40% of all federal benefit programs to cities and towns in greatest need, well, showed some pretty terrible results. In total, it found that earmarks in 18 states last year failed to meet that benchmark, depriving disadvantaged communities of an estimated $79 million in water aid. And according to Eric Olson, who is a senior strategic director for health and food at the NRDC, the earmarks basically are taking the money away from low-income communities that really need the funding most to fix their drinking water and putting it.
When they say
we have a colonizer invader that has come into our midst, we are going to banish this invader. We're going to banish this invader immediately and return to our clip right now.
And food at the NRDC. The earmarks basically are taking the money away from low-income communities that really need the funding most to fix their drinking water and putting it into wealthier communities that are often white communities that don't need the money as much. The beneficiaries include the city of Bel Air, Texas, just outside Houston, which scored $2.4 million to replace its water lines last year, with an average household income exceeding $200,000 annually, Bel Air normally might have had to take a loan. Instead, it received a federal grant thanks to Democratic Representative Lizzie Fletcher. So this is a big problem, and I had lots of issues with the legislation that Biden pushed.
Okay, so I think you guys get the gist from her report. The only thing she did not do was identify what we're actually dealing with, which is systematic white supremacy. Okay, that's what we're dealing with. I mean, she did a pretty good job of breaking it down, but there's so much, and again, she stopped short of systematic white supremacy, because that's exactly what she is and has been explaining. I got one more. Bear with me, family. I got it. One more example I want to try and share with you if I can. If I can't find it fast enough, I will move on. But I want desperately, because this is a perfect example of what, you know, especially one that many of us are familiar with. And I just thought about it after I started this report, and yeah, I'm not gonna find it fast enough. So okay, we're gonna move forward. The example is the Brett Favre Mississippi welfare scandal. Literally, funds from the U.S. government were allocated and sent to the state of Mississippi. And in that example, it was for the welfare system. Okay? And the state official overseeing those funds, remember I told you, even if it's not the congressman, the state officials will do basically the same thing as far as extracting money from the people that the money was intended for, or the purpose the money was intended for, and they'll use that money and redirect it to their own pet projects. That state official got with Brett Favre and they built a volleyball stadium with welfare funding. Do you see that? And then tried to cover it up. Talking about, well, okay, we can have them pay some of it back. We can. No, you're supposed to go to jail for that. Ain't no payback. Brett Favre still ain't been arrested. Why? Systematic white supremacy. That's why. They've been doing this. They've always been doing this. Pretty much in every state. Okay? So, right after, or it was either just before or just after the Brett Favre scandal broke, what happened in Mississippi? What happened in Mississippi? Well, let's see here. This happened. The water systems failed, were contaminated. And this is where the people ended up in line trying to get have water that was being passed out, trying to survive until they somehow at the last minute tried to fix the water systems for that area. The water systems in that area would have already been fixed and no longer in jeopardy if all of the money the government had sent to the state of Mississippi for these repairs and upgrades with the infrastructure, if that money was going directly to do just that. But every time they would send money, the congressmen and the state politicians will all go scratching into it for all kind of different trickeration projects. And so there almost never was enough money, or at least seemingly enough money, to fully upgrade the Mississippi water system until it failed. It's literally the exact same system. And who was mostly affected? The predominantly black community areas there in Mississippi, because the suburban areas outside this predominantly black area, their water infrastructure had been upgraded years ago. They wasn't on the same, water provider system. They had their own separate water treatment plants and all this other stuff. So they didn't have no problem with their waters in the surrounding areas outside of the predominantly black community. I mean, you can't make this up. This is exactly an example. Same thing with Flint. Go down the list. This, my white brothers and sisters, is an example of systematic racism. How, in this example, the funding from the government almost never fully reaches the places in our country that are most in need for what its purpose was for. Whether it's water, whether it's roadways, bridges, whether it's electrical grid, whatever you want to call it. Okay? So, once again, here at One Brothas Mind, it's the like button, man. Y'all getting this work today. Y'all getting this information and understanding. Share this report on all your social media with all your peoples. And make sure you're subscribed to One Brothas Mind, because we're bringing you the information and facts you need. Okay, so to my brothers and sisters out there, this is what we're fighting. Can you fight this systematic white supremacy? My white brothers and sisters, how do you stop this? I mean, well, one way you can actually theoretically make it illegal to do these pet projects and extract monies that are intended for other infrastructure purposes. But the only people that can pass that kind of law are the same congressmen that are actually doing it. So that ain't gonna work, right? So how do you stop this? Exactly. Drop it in the comments. Y'all got an idea on how to stop the congressman from basically stealing money that's intended for other infrastructure projects around the United States. Y'all drop it in the comments of how you stop them from doing it so the money actually gets where it's most needed, especially in predominantly black neighborhoods and communities all over the United States. Okay? How do you stop that? How you stop Brett Favre and his boys and those Mississippi state officials? How do you stop that? You can't call the supervisor. They are the supervisor. You can't call the McManager. It's them. The manager is the one eating all the Big Macs. What do you? Yeah. So, family, here at One Brothas Mind, we try to offer solutions. Okay. Most people just complain out here in these social media streets. They make reports and videos and whatever. All they do is complain about something. Something has happened. This is crazy. What do y'all think about it? That's all they say. But here at One Brothas Mind, we try to offer solutions. Okay? And in this example, if you, wherever you live at, if you don't want to end up in one of these water lines because the water treatment plant is all jacked up, so the water is not drinkable, you got to boil the water or just not use the water at all, and now you got to go line up and wait trying to get some water just to make it to the next day. If you don't want to end up in that situation, here's a few solution suggestions. Okay, here we go. First one, we're going to start to the far left on your screen. Water storage. I got two examples up here. There's 50-gallon tanks that are available, and then there's the IBC totes that are 250-gallon tanks, or some are a little larger than that. You can get either of these options, clean them out, do your research on everything that I'm showing you thus far. You have to do your own research. Educate yourself on how to do these things. Okay, I'm just going to give you an overview. With each of these examples, you have to educate yourself on how to properly do these things at your home. Okay? But whether you store water in 50-gallon barrels or 250-gallon barrels, IBC totes, you can store water, a significant amount for you and your family, so when there is some sort of water crisis, you have a good amount of water that actually will carry you and your family either the entire time of the water crisis or at least a significant amount of that time, and you won't have to be out here like this the whole time. You get that? Okay, so if you got water stores, say you got two of these IBC totes, 2 or 3 of them, you got 750 gallons of water. That'll last, say a family of 2 or 3 a good long while. Okay? Do your research. Okay? There's also, you move into the middle of your screen. You got to do your research on various different water filtration options. Okay? Because if there's a water issue, a contamination issue, or whatever it is, having good water filtration options at your home will help sometimes make it so that you can actually still utilize and drink your water, whereas your neighbor cannot because they don't have proper water filtration. In the middle of your screen, there's a life straw. If you got to go to a stream and just want to try to drink straight out of the stream. They were kind of popular. Their popularity is kind of falling off, but there's newer versions of those type of things that are even better. Also, same thing at the top middle, the Berkey water filter. It was kind of hot for a while, but newer water filter systems have come out that actually have better filtration than the Berkey water filter. But you gotta have something. And some of you may be asking, well, what's that manual water pump next to the water filter at the top, the red thing? Well, that's a tall manual water pump that you can get and use if you're doing water storage in a 50 or a 250 gallon tank. That pump will literally stand inside that. Once you open it, it'll stand inside that tank, and you can pump out or extract out or siphon out your water as you need it. Okay, just got that there to show you that type of thing is available. Over to the left of your screen, at your home or at your property, you can have installed your own water well or well water system. They're not so much like they used to be, but way back in the day. I mean, they got systems that are very advanced, that have filtration systems, and even that actually help change the taste of the water. So it tastes like regular tap water or like refrigerator filter water or something, as opposed to the traditional taste to well water if you find that displeasing. Okay? But you got to do your research for providing your own water. Rainwater collection. You can do that on your own property, your house, on your homestead, what have you. Do your research. Again, I'm just providing you with some options. You have to do the research to get the details and figure out what option or options are best for you and your family. Okay? Next, if you have actually a homestead or you got several acres of property that you recently bought or you just have them, whatever. One of your options there, you can build your own reservoir on your property. A lot of people have done this and are doing this because that's a way to house thousands of gallons of water for you and your family to use in some emergency situations. And I say that some because, for example, some of you guys may remember the train derailment in Ohio, right? Where all the chemicals got in the air, and then from the air they went into the water system. So if you got a property in Ohio in that local area, and those chemicals got in the air and then came down into the water, those chemicals got into your reservoir also and contaminated it. You see what I'm saying? That's why I said some situations. So going back a step, whatever your home or your homestead or property, whatever, one of the best investments you can make, and some of them get pretty pricey, is a high water filtration system, a high level water filtration system. Because depending on what the contaminant is or contaminants are, and regardless of where they come from, whether it's a train derailment or out the ground, out the pipes, whatever, the water plant shut down, whatever it is, if you have your own personal high level water filtration system and you confirm that your system actually still filters out the contaminants that let's say the city is warning everybody about or came out of the chemicals from the train, again, you have to confirm by researching whatever water filtration system or high level water filtration system you have. Once you confirm that, then you can know either way. Yes, our filtration system filters that mess out, so we can still keep drinking and using our water. Or no, our high level water filtration system does not filter these chemicals out, so we need to come up with another plan. Okay? Do your research. Also, one last option. Let's say it's some sort of issue where the water that you receive from your city through your pipes is jacked up. Something's happened or whatever. And you don't have a reservoir. You don't have water stored, many hundreds of gallons of water stored on your property or at your home. Another option to the top left of your screen, this is one of the more affordable options, is you can actually purchase submersible solar water pump systems. Basically, what the guy has in his hand is a water pump. It's a solar water pump. They have electrical ones, but the better ones are solar, right? So he's got the little wires coming off of it. They're going to a solar panel and battery or a solar generator, one or both, okay? And it's powering this submersible water pump, right? So he's using this tote to show you he just lowered the water pump just enough into the water he has in his tote so you can see in this image how strong a force of water this water pump will pump. So if you go and find you, and you have to do your research, the nearest flowing or running stream of water to your home or to your property, right? You got a creek over here or a little body of water that flows. Do not use water in a standing pond or that just sits still, because that has a much higher levels of contaminants in it. Water that just sits still. Do not use that. Always only use or try to extract water from flowing, a stream, moving water, okay? So if you drop this submersible pump, say in a stream, let's say you had one of these IBC totes, the one that was 250 gallons. Say you got that in the back of your truck, and if you look at the image where the water is spraying out of this pump, you got a bunch of hose attached to that outlet, and that hose runs up in and into the water tank, whatever you got, 50 or 250 gallon tank in your truck, right? You got enough hose, it stretches, and it's just right in there. So then you can turn that water pump on, and theoretically that water pump will pump water from that stream into your water tank in your truck. And basically it's an option to refill your water tanks. Do you see that, family? Then you would be able to take those water tanks home, and then your final thing to do with that water you just got from the nearby stream is to boil it and filter it to ensure it's now drinkable. But again, you have to follow all of your filtration information based on whatever type of filtration system you have. Okay? But there you have it, family. Again, dealing with systematic white supremacy, water racism in the United States, which is basically environmental terrorism. Been going on for centuries. Okay, y'all. There you have it. Y'all let me know what y'all think about this issue. This is a perfect example, several examples of how, again, white supremacy in this particular category works, and how it's baked in the cake, how it just continues to roll on, and how do you stop it? Again, drop the comment in the chat, put it in the comments. You got an exact plan of how to stop this white supremacy from working, how to shut it down, so all of the government's money that it designates for these different infrastructure needs throughout the United States, the money actually gets where it's supposed to go, so those officials can actually fix the water treatment plant and get rid of all the lead pipes and whatever the case may be. Drop it in the comments. Come on ahead, drop it in the comments, and we'll chop it up from there. And this concludes this broadcast from One Brothas Mind. We thank you for joining us, and as a part of the new Black media, B1 choices are mandatory, and being on code is required. But never fear, Yeshua the Christ is with you always. Shalom.